What's up, DIY Queens? It's your design bestie, Cara Newhart, and this is Make Space.
It's Cara, and welcome back to Make Space. We are changing it up today. I'm doing a solo episode because I really wanted to dive into what it means to make space in your home. So when I named this podcast, there's obviously kind of a double-sided meaning here, because on one hand, making space means making your spaces, taking charge of DIY and projects, and really just stepping up and taking charge of the process of designing a home that you're obsessed with and everything that comes with learning curves, challenges, power tools, design tips, and all of the actual practical things that go into helping you create the space of your dreams. But through this process, I was sitting down and really thinking about what it means to empower you to take this step. And what I realized is a lot of design advice out there is prescriptive. It's telling you what to put in your space, what colors to use, what to do. And while that is amazingly helpful, especially if you don't have design experience and you don't really know where to start, I think you reach a point where it's kind of overwhelming. Like there's too many options to choose from. There's too many conflicting voices telling you different things to do. And at some point you just have to block out all the noise and listen to you. Like, what do you want out of your space? What do you like? What do you want to see happen in your home? And so the whole process of this show has been really trying to dive deeper than Pinterest-worthy rooms and dive deeper than that surface-level design advice and really get to the core of who are you and how can your home serve you and what do you need to do to get you there? Is it hiring someone? Is it doing it all yourself? Is it trial and error and letting yourself just mess things up and be okay with the learning process? I think everyone's at a different point, and I wanted to create a show that really served everyone on this journey, no matter where they're at. But what I realized is I haven't really taken the time to unpack what I think it means to make space in your home. So I just wanted to take an episode to do that because I think as we begin the year, there's a lot of people are setting resolutions and there's a lot of additions that you feel you need to make to your life. Adding healthy habits, adding a workout, adding whatever it is. And so to me, those things feel like they can pile up and be overwhelming when I look at all the additional things I think that I need to do to make my life better. And this happens in our homes too. Everything that, is a problem area. Well, if I just had a bigger piece of furniture here or something over here with storage, what can we add to our spaces? But for me, making space is not only about taking charge of the process, but it's also about what can we take away. And this actually is a very deeply seated thought process in our culture. It's called the additive cognitive bias. And if you just cringed because that sounds like a science word, that is fine. We're going to break down what it actually means because this concept is only helpful if you know how it applies to you. So think of it this way. Back when we were cave people, whatever we were doing back then, survival was a lot about getting more, like more shelter, more food, more firewood, more members of your tribe, more friends and allies and weapons. So more and the quest for more was an integral part of our survival early on. And over time, that has obviously transformed into the system we in America know today as capitalism. So in modern day society, we still think of success as getting more, getting the bigger house, getting the better car, getting more. And the term for this is consumerism. So I think we're kind of starting to shift away from that as a society as we kind of look to, oh, it's not about what we have, but it's about experience. It's about family. It's about being actually happy. So we see trends popping up like minimalism, like people going and living small and living in vans and simplifying their lives. And those are obviously extreme examples that don't work for everyone, but many people find joy in that. And so I think there's this middle ground when it's like we're reacting to this idea of more will fix you, more will make you happier, more will fix your house, more will solve all your problems. And so I think when we can really dig in and think about what this means for our spaces and realize that it's not always more that's the answer. So this additive cognitive bias is essentially just the tendency to think automatically that adding something is going to fix the problem, that adding something is the easiest solution, and it's just kind of the immediate solution we go to. It's not our fault. We've just been taught to think this way because of how we've kind of grown as a culture. But I think when we can break away from that and say, wait a second, maybe I don't need to add anything at all. Maybe I need to rearrange. Maybe I need to take away. Maybe I need to, purge things. I think that's why, the talk about clutter and decluttering and getting rid of things is so popular because it's such a reaction to this wanting more, but it's also so hard for people. Like, people really struggle with decluttering and letting things go because of this bias, because of this mindset that we think we just should add more and it will fix the problem. So all that to say, making space also means taking things away and editing out things that are not serving you, things that are not bringing you joy, things that are not working in your space. And the lowest hanging fruit is clutter, because that's like the little things and the visual things that we can easily get rid of to transform a space. But to really make space in your home, you have to go deeper than that. You have to look at how you want to live and what things are supporting or not supporting that, what you do in your daily routine, what things are making that easier or harder, what areas of your home you can even get really specific with, your workspace. Like, what about your workspace is not helping and supporting you that needs to go? And so as we enter this new year, I think it's easy to look at all the ways that we need to add to our homes and add to our lives and all the projects we want to tackle, all the new additions we want to make. Those are beautiful. There's a place for those. I absolutely, that is the main part of my job is, showing people how to make these amazing spaces and DIY it and build it. But there's a flip side of the coin that is, you also have to subtract. You cannot always just add into infinity, because that's not going to get you where you want to be. So if you've already made resolutions about what to add into your life, that is fine. This still applies to you. If you were overwhelmed by the process and you decided to make no resolutions, then this might be your perfect solution as well. And if and when you fall off the wagon of the resolutions you made, you don't have to beat yourself up. It might just be time to subtract instead of trying to work so hard to add. So I just want you to take some time and really sit with what in your space needs to go. Not just clutter, not just items, not just the visual things that you're like, okay, I could probably get rid of that. But what about your space needs to change or needs to be edited so that it's serving your best life? It's so funny because I think making space in your house isn't just about physical space or objects. It's about making space and clearing out the clutter of other people's opinions, design trends, old habits, approaches that haven't worked, things you've accumulated because they're sentimental or they're sentimental to someone. I know my mom was always saving and giving me stuff that is very special to her and holds a lot of memory, but for me, it doesn't have that same power. And so do I keep that just because she gave it to me and it matters to her? Or do I say, you know what, this doesn't serve me in my space, and I let it go? And so that's a really specific example, but I want you to sit with and think about all the areas in your home that you can make space. And to do this practically, you can make a list, you can journal, you can just wander around your house and look at things if you're more visual and less into the writing. But I love first sitting down and just going through my day-to-day life, writing out all the tasks I do in a day and my routine. If you have a partner, you can do this together with them. If you have kids, you can also do it together as a family. But just taking some time to assess all the things that you do in a day. And along with this process, there's usually a lot that comes up about, healthy habits, whether or not these are the things you should be doing. So don't write down your ideal day, write down your actual day. And for some people, you might have to do this as you're living the day. You have to go through and write down what you do as you do it. But track it for one day and write down a list of everything you do in your home on an actual real day in your life. And then separately, write down kind of like your ideal day. Like if you did all these habits that you want to do and you think you need to do to be the person you want to be, what would that look like? Would there be a workout at home? Would there be you cook breakfast? Would you wake up earlier? Whatever it is. And then you can kind of compare and contrast these lists of the person you are, the person you're living as right now, and then the person you want to become. And this contrast, first of all, is not something to feel shame about. It's not like, oh, I'm not doing the right things. It is, oh, look, what I want is right there, and I just have to bridge this gap to get there. And creating spaces within my home is a tool that I can use to get me from the person that I am to the person that I want to be. And just a sidebar before we continue with this process is a lot of work. It's self-work. It's a lot of assessment. It takes a while. So this isn't necessarily something you're going to get done in 2 days or 2 weeks. It could be a while for you to go through this and assess everything that's working in your house and not working, but just let it be what it is. If it's a long process for you, great. If it's quick, one and done, and you're on it because you maybe don't have a lot to fix, great. But just allow it to take the time that it needs. Okay, so now what we're going to do with these two lists is we're going to walk through our home and kind of look at the actual areas where we're doing these activities. Really break it down. Like, let's say we're getting ready in the morning and we go and look at our vanity. What about your vanity is supporting your routine? Like, what is really, really good? Like, you have amazing drawers and you keep all your hair tools in them and you put them right back and you've developed a routine around that and it's clutter-free and it's great and it's working. Write that down. Give yourself praise or a gold sticker or however you are proud of yourself. And then what's not working about this space is, do you have skincare bottles that are everywhere because you have accumulated too many products? And maybe you could simplify those with one simple tray with your 5 favorites that you use every day. Is there a ton of decor that you've put there because you wanted it to look good and you styled it, but it's actually in the way of your everyday life and you could have something functional there instead that might not look like a Pinterest-worthy image, but is going to make your day work better? Or is it the opposite? Are you all function and there's nothing decorative that kind of sets the tone for your day as you're getting ready and really makes you, feel like, I don't know, proud of your house, excited to be there, and happy to be in that space. So this is kind of the thought process I want you to work through as you go through these activities and you go to the spaces where you're doing these activities and living your everyday life. Think about like, what is working? What about this makes me happy? What about this makes it easy? What about this space supports the task that I'm trying to do here? And then what is not working? What could be better? What do I need to get rid of? What could I swap that's maybe really simple? And it's really so funny because this is not a way we really think about our homes very often. Normally, when we think about making a change or decorating, we are looking at other people's houses. We are looking at inspo photos. We are looking at paint colors. We're going to the store to perfectly curated showrooms and going to Home Goods and wandering around and finding a vase and trying to envision how it would go in the space. And that is all fun. Like, those are some of my very favorite activities. Like, hands down, I love doing those things. But at the same time, you have to start with the space you actually live in. And you have to stand in that space and think of what you're going to do there as a person and what things that you specifically need to support that. So this process becomes really, really simple when we start with us and we start with what we need out of a space. It's just something that no one really teaches us to do. Like, no one really tells you to journal about your spaces and your home decor. No one really tells you to start with habits that you want to make or activities that you do every day when you're thinking about decorating. That, I guess, feels like too much work. So for the easy breezy design advice of here's the paint colors, here's the trends, it's like too deep of a dive. which is fine. Like sometimes we're going for the quick tip, but I think in your home, you have to do the real work if you want it to make you happy. And so, yeah, start with those activities, and then we can start expanding to thinking of your home as an expression of you. Like, what does my artistic voice look like? What does it sound like? Like, what creatively would feel good to me in this space? And it's all too easy to look around at inspo photos and be like, I will copy that, I will paste it in here, and that will be it. But how can we remix that? How can you use inspiration photos as a springboard, pulling elements that really light you up and really feel like you, but then combining those in a new way so it feels like I've made this, like I pulled this together to feel like me. There's nothing wrong with being inspired. In fact, being inspired is an integral part of the creative process. Like, you have to pull inspiration from somewhere. It can't all just be made up right out of your head, especially when you have no design training and it's not a muscle you've really practiced exercising. So using your creativity, experimenting, trying things, letting it not work, like putting a piece of decor somewhere and then later being like, wait a second, this doesn't work how I thought it would. It's not functional. Like, it looked good, but it's actually too big. And what if I swapped it for this? But yeah, just get on the journey and let it unfold, and let yourself try new things along the way. You don't have to have it all worked out right now. You don't have to have a before and after, because the after is never done. We talk about this all the time, but the after does not mean done. The after is just a pinpoint or a pit stop on the journey. Okay, so that's the piece of the process that's all about starting with you, what you're doing in your home, and how you can change it to serve you better. So then there's a lot of other elements that come to making space. And I think the second one I want to dive into is making space in terms of clearing out opinions and expectations of others that we have taken on for ourselves. So this can happen in many, many ways. It's changes you made to your house because someone made a comment, whether it's, a mother-in-law, your best friend, your neighbor, someone making a comment about your house, about something they like or really don't like, and you kind of taking that to heart and then deciding to make a change based on that. So it's all the things we do in our home that are actually for others. And when I say others, I mean people that don't live there. Because honestly, the only people that are allowed to have an opinion about your house are the people that live in it. And that sounds so simple, but it can be so hard, especially if you, like me, are kind of a perfectionist and a people pleaser, and you're working on getting over that. It can be hard when people want to weigh in and tell you what to do, and sometimes they mean so well, like they truly have good intentions and want to help you, but you have to check that against like your internal voice and against like your little list you made about what serves you best in your home. And if it doesn't fit, it doesn't get to stay, and it doesn't get to be used as a strategy in your space. And so the piece of this process that's hands-on is, you can take a walk through your house and you can look at areas. It's easiest to start with areas that are bothering you because those are usually like screaming for attention and change. So maybe it's like a drop zone in your mudroom that is filled with things and you trip over shoes every time you come in, or maybe it's your entryway, maybe it's something in your kitchen. Start with those areas that are like screaming for attention that you probably usually avoid because they're overwhelming. And instead of going there and being like, oh, I have to clean this, like I don't want to do that right now, just assess it. Just like sit there and look at it and be like, what about this is creating this situation that's happening that I don't like? And you can do this for like other people's opinions. So when we're walking around and we're seeing things that we don't like, is it something you did for someone else, whether because someone directly said something or it's a trend that you were like, ooh, if I put this in my house, it's going to look really good and it will look really cool and it will make me look good. And when people come over, they'll be like, wow, that's amazing. Because that's something I personally did. I know my first house, when I really didn't have a sense of my voice as a designer yet, it was all like, what will people think if they see it? Will they think it looks cool? Because like I want people to think that I look, my house looks cool and then I'm cool. And so it was a lot of that. And it's not necessarily negative when we take the things people tell us, or we take the trends or recommendations that we think will make us look good and we put them in our house. It's not like a necessarily negative. It's just, it's not as good as it could be. Like it's not as good as it could be if we listen to ourselves and listen to our own voice. And so that's my challenge, is whatever this looks like for you, whether it's walking around specific items, specific pieces of advice, specific gifts people gave you, and you're like, okay, this isn't serving me. Like the gesture was so kind, but I don't have to keep this. Or if it's just kind of like more reflecting on just the ways this has played out in your home in general. Like, are there trends that you've taken on that didn't really feel like they lit you up, but it felt like it was going to give you an end result of people liking you or being proud of you, and so it seemed worth it? And is that something we need to swap out and be done with that trend? So just reflect on the ways in which you've let people's opinions or expectations into your home, and you've let those decisions kind of drive what you've done in your space when it really should be you driving it. And I think if you're a mom with kids, this gets even more complicated, because then it's pulling on the, your heartstrings of being a good mom and the expectations around being a good mom, which come from all directions, like articles on the internet, doctors, experts, books, your mom, your partner's mom, where else? Oh my gosh, so many places. It's like in all directions, people are telling you what it's like, should look like to be a good mom. The stranger in the aisle at Target, that happened to me many times when I was a young mom. But yeah, so there's a whole other layer, I think, when you have kids, because then it's like, it's not just about you, it's about like, you want to be a good mom for them. And so like, what things are we doing in our house that we think is like, oh, I'm a good mom if whatever it is. If I give up this whole room to give them a playroom, when maybe instead I need that to be my workspace, and I need that space for me to fill me up so that I can be a good mom. But I think that giving that room up to my kids to just fill with plastic toys is, the picture of a perfect mom. So whatever that looks like for you, like it can be so different for so many people, depending on where you live, how many kids you have, like your parenting style, all of it. Creating a playroom for your kids is a perfect strategy for one mom, while getting rid of the playroom and taking it back for yourself as your workspace or workout space is the perfect strategy for another mom. So figure out what it is for you, and don't let the clutter and the noise of other people's expectation drive those decisions. Even if it's unconventional, it feels scary, it feels like people are going to question you. If it's right and it's right, then that's what we do in our houses. Not just what we love, but what we know is going to serve us and our family. Okay, so just to recap, so phase 1 of making space is deciding who we are, who we want to be, and setting up our home to serve us. And a lot of that is editing and getting rid of the things that aren't working. And then we can add things to help, but don't use adding as our first approach. Take away and then add back what we need. Okay, second phase is other people's opinions. So making space, clearing out other people's opinions, whether it's they mean well, whether they're mean and they don't mean well, whether it's trends, or whether it's just society in general. We are clearing out opinions. We are deciding what our home needs to be for us, and we're not listening to others weigh in unless it's helpful and serving us and feels right and is productive. And then the third phase is making space for the now. And this sounds very abstract, but I promise you it's not. So to break this down, I think it's best to start with the concept of our dream home. So our dream home is this idealistic home that we've built in our heads, that we've sourced ideas from everywhere, like photos in magazines or social media, or spaces we see other people have, lives we see other people living. It's this house we've constructed that only exists in our brain. And we kind of use as our yardstick of perfection. It's like the version that we've created in our head of perfection and what it looks like for us. And we measure up everything against this. So the current house that we have, we look at all the ways it falls short of being our dream house. And this can be really good. Again, it's like that gap between who we are and who we'd like to be, like our ideal version. And remember, like the bridge between that gap is like, that's what motivates us, right? Like it's what pulls us forward to grow and become better. So there's nothing wrong with building this dream idealistic version of your best life in your perfect house in your head. There's nothing wrong with that. It can actually be extremely motivating. It's giving us a goal and something to work towards, and it's pulling us to grow and be better. So that is good. But where it goes wrong is that we start viewing that gap as inadequacy, as insufficiency, as here's what I don't have. And we focus on that kind of lack and what we're missing. So I say a lot on the show, one of my favorite quotes that popped into my brain one day is that you, when looking at your dream space, you don't actually want that dream space. You don't want that room. You don't want that kitchen. What you actually want is the person that you think that you would be if you had that space. You want the bigger kitchen because you think you'd be a mom that cooks more. You want the extra bedroom because you think you would finally have time to pursue your hobby as an artist. And if you just had the space, that's the only thing that's holding you back, is having that space. So our dream spaces are good in that it's something we're aspiring to. It's something that we are looking to want to grow and become better. But where they start to hold us back is when we use them as an excuse for why we're not doing the things right now that are actually going to get us there. So take the art example. If you're not painting right now on your kitchen floor or your dining room table or in a closet, wherever you can make space in your current house, you're not diving in and doing the work and practicing and developing your art, then you're not putting any of the work in that's going to make you an artist. So the idea of our dream home holds us back when we're using it as an excuse to not be the person today that we actually want to be if we had that dream home, if that makes sense. And so this comes up in a lot of ways. So for me, it looks like holding on to items that I think one day when I have this house or when I do this thing or when I've achieved this thing, I'm going to need this item because I'm going to do something with it then. So I hold on to clutter that the future me is going to need in her space, but it could be something totally different for you. And the way to find it is to really dive into what are you not doing because you're waiting on a future, better imaginary version of you or a future, better imaginary dream home. And when you have that home, then you'll be able to do all these things that you want to do. So making space, when I say make space for the now, it means make space in the house you have to do the things that you want to do. So it's getting rid of all of those one day when I have a big kitchen, one day when I have a bigger closet, one day when, whatever it is. The one day is actually now. And so we want to rework our homes now, the current house we live in, no matter how small, no matter how insufficient it seems compared to our dreams, but we want to rework it so that it allows us to do the things that we want to do. And we're not waiting on a future space or a future version of us to do them. We're doing them now. And this is a lesson that might instantly click for you and you might really resonate with. For me, it was something I had to learn the hard way. There still seems to be things popping up that I find myself waiting on one day when I do this. And we're just postponing our happiness, and we're also putting off the work that we have to do on ourselves and in our home. And it's the work that's actually going to get us to the one day when, but we're not doing it because we're waiting. So how can we make space in our house to do the things that the best version of us would be doing right now, or just stuff we want to do that we're feeling held back and confined by our spaces? And this honestly is where creativity comes into play, because if you're in a tiny space and you have nowhere to paint, then you're magically faced with a challenge. And now you go to your closet and you create a little corner and you go vertical with everything, and you have a flip down desk and you have creative storage, and you've made a little space in a little corner of your closet to do the thing you want to do. And so this can be all kinds of things, no matter your hobby or no matter what you want to make happen. And I think that's one of the beautiful things that's come out of the pandemic and the time at home, is that for those of us that were fortunate enough to stay at home and not be working on the front lines tirelessly, shout out to all of you because you're amazing. But for those of us that stayed at home, we had to get really creative with dual purpose. Suddenly, kitchen tables became offices and closets became podcast studios, and all these things that we now had to do in our space meant we had to make space in rooms that weren't set up for that. And people got really creative, and it really led to so much reinvention and redefining the conventional way we live in our houses and the way we think of, the dining room is for a table. Well, now it's not. Now it's a playroom, or it's an office, or it's a workout room. And so, you can go multi-purpose with things, and you can create spaces where there is actually no additional space, but just by reinventing the way you use it is going to change the whole game and create a space for you to do something that you want to do where there's no space before. So this is really the starting point. I have DIY tutorials and projects and tool tutorials and design tips and all kinds of stuff through my content on Instagram and TikTok and my blog. And that is amazing. Like, that is stuff that is going to serve you at some point, whether it's because it shows you how to do something or shows you something you don't like because you're like, ugh, I don't like that. I'm going to do it this way instead. But that's not the starting place. That is the process. And the starting place is actually this working through how you can make space in your home, how you make space for you, the version that you want to be, and who you are right now, how you make space to be yourself and not need to be defined by other people's opinions or expectations, and how you make space for right now, for being able to be present and do the things that you want to do now. And we're not looking to this version of ourselves that doesn't exist yet and feeling held back by the fact that we're not there yet. And so this episode is tricky because it's not conventional design advice. It's not necessarily practical things where you can go buy a paint color and put it on your wall and expect your whole room to be solved. But that's the whole point, is that stuff doesn't actually solve the deep problem or the deep issue that's going on, which is work that only you can do. Only you can decide how you want to show up in your space. Only you can decide whether or not to let trends and expectations define your home. And only you can decide that you want to start now working on being the person you want to be instead of waiting on the one day when to be happy. You're taking charge of your life right now, not waiting to feel fulfilled and satisfied later when you have what it is you think you want. And this episode is tricky because it's something that you can hear and resonate with and be like, yes, I need to do that, and then never actually do that. It's something that you can hear and be like, ooh, that is actually what's going to help me, and then never actually do the work of reflecting on yourself and on your space to get you there. So my challenge to you is that you take time in not, piling on all the additions of resolutions and healthy habits and all of that, but we take time to really carve out space for who we want to be and what we want to do in the homes we have right now. And I also have to take a second to acknowledge my privilege, because this whole message is coming from a place of personal experience and, my lived experience, which is having a degree of privilege that has allowed me the space and time to work through these things and do this inner work without having to fight for my survival or my right to show up in the world. And so if this advice doesn't resonate with you because of any kind of demographic or situation that doesn't offer you the same privilege that I am speaking from, it is okay if this advice doesn't work for you because of that. I can only speak from my lived experience and the empathy I have for others as an ally. And so that's why I have amazing guests on this show from all kinds of backgrounds and demographics and walks of life and orientations. So we can tell the full story together because it can't all come from me. So this episode is solo, but I would encourage you to tune in to one of the many, many episodes and the many, many different voices, because it is my goal that there is something for everyone here, and I'm working towards making that even better in 2022. I have so many amazing guests lined up. If you have recommendations, I would love to hear those as well, because I really do want to paint a full picture of what it means to create homes we're obsessed with and explore every version of that, because everyone deserves to be able to create spaces they're obsessed with and have a home that supports them. And I want to explore all the different ways that can happen, because I think that's the beauty of creativity, is it does not have to look a certain way. And when we think through all the different options, we kind of break out of the mold of convention of what we think of homes as being. We start to look at all the different versions. It really is freeing, and it gives everyone kind of the power to step in and be like, I'm going to make my home whatever it needs to be for me.
Thanks for listening. And if you've got more episodes to catch up on, binge on. Don't let me stop you. But if you've got a second, you should come say hi on Insta at MakeSpacePod. And if you're an overachiever, you can also leave a review and I'll love you forever. If you're new here, hit that follow button to officially become a DIY queen and join all the amazing humans tuning in every week.